there's a common question. I mean, a few people would say, why does New Edition, musically, they didn't really do that much. After Any Heartbreak and then Home Again album was okay. And then, but then, is it fair to say because collectively they had some groundbreaking albums that's like, Johnny Gill's Robbed You the Right Way, Ralph DeVoe's Poison, then Bobby's Don't Be Cruel on the Bobby album, and then Ralph's Sensitivity, then they're now saying as a collective with all the extended material, we're viewing New Edition, and so that's why we're elevating them. But when you compare them, their catalog, just New Edition catalog, compared to some of the other groups, do they stack up? And is it fair to give them, I think, as good as Boys to Men when it comes to albums?
I don't know. For me, it was just 2 albums. For me, it was the Any Heartbreak and the one after in '96. I mean, the tracks, the albums before, they all had, the 80s stuff all had good tracks on them.
Mm.
But as albums as a whole, I wouldn't really listen to them.
It's like when you look at those records, those are like, when you look at the album, when you look at what they were doing in terms of sales, in terms of popularity, I mean, they were it. But it's just that we're based on our age where we are now, we connect more with Heartbreak and Home Again. The rest of those records is just like, okay, in my mind, even though I listened to those records, but those were like girl records. Those are records like if you're a teenage girl, those are records. Don't get me wrong, because I bought the 45 that Mr. Telephone Man. I think I had Cool It Now. I had them, and when they would come on TV, my mother would be like, hey, New Edition's on. So that was it. But I remember people like, guys were kind of plugged into them a little bit. But I remember when they came out with Candy Girl, I hated them because that's all the girls like. Oh, man, I hated it. Them and the Barge, they came out at the same 83. And I was like, man, the girls, man. But when they came out with that Heartbreak, it was like, okay, it comes full circle. And you're right. I understand where you're coming from. When you look at groups and you're looking at the greatness of the group, but I guess you have to kind of look at it in totality, because they're a franchise, obviously, because they spun off into all those successful solo records. But when you look at them as a group, not just in terms of the records, but in terms of the visual stage performance, you got to kind of count it. You got to give that credit. If we measure people by the records alone, it's either the bar's going to be raised or the bar's going to be lowered, and we can kind of look at them. So a record basically is a musical measurement in time or of time. But when you look at who they were, who they are now, that's who they were years ago in terms of the stage. So the stage situation was always there. It's just the fact that record, Heartbreak, it caught up to the stage aspect of it, So they were winning awards as kids. They were winning Grammy Awards or whatever. So, but I just think that American Music Awards. I'm sorry. So, but you're right. The Home Again, and
Any Heartbreak,
right? The Home Again and the Heartbreak album. Those records were like solidified their legend. Without those 2 records, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Candy Girl was a worldwide hit.
Yeah, it was, and I was in England when it came out, I think.
Candy Girl was super big. But what I'm saying is that it was big. But when you look in terms and everything else they had, I mean, the songs were. If you look at like some of the charts, those records were charting pretty high. It's just the fact that when they were released, it's like a certain records. Like right now, a lot of you got a big New Jack collection, Stevie. And you can tap into those records because there's a lot of great material on those records, like you were introducing to us when we had our last guest on. But then there's certain songs that come out within the musical time frame. You have to mentally take yourself and transport yourself from a grown man to a kid to appreciate those records. Like when I was at any concert and I'm listening to Ralph Tresvant sing With You All the Way and those records like that. And there's another one that he did. I can't think of what it is, but I'm seeing all the 40, 50-year-old women around me transform into teenagers all over again. But for me, I remember those records, but when you're doing the heartbreak stuff, okay, I'm locked in. All the other stuff, it's great to see, and it's great to see the reaction, but you know, again, without heartbreak and without the other ones, Home Again, we're not having a conversation. That means if they ever came out with those records and Bobby Brown, Don't Be Cruel came out, it'd be unanimous. But for me, I like to look at it as like neck and neck. It's part of the whole NE franchise, you know.
I think my favorite record pre the Heartbreak album from New Edition was Mr. Telephone Man, but that's a cover version, I do believe. There's another version of that, isn't there? I forgot the artist who did it, but
yes, Ray Parker Jr. wrote it for somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the artist.
Yeah.
He wrote the song, but somebody else recorded it. Yeah, somebody else recorded it. I forgot the guy's name. He's a young guy too.
I always thought that Sprout's coming in about 3 minutes, but I always thought that New Edition missed their window of opportunity. So when they had done the 91, when they did the Poison, they What's the Mother, when they did the remix version, pretty much one of my favorite any collective song. At that point, song was hot. They all should have just come straight and done a New Edition album in 91. Because all of them would have had their, all of them had they all had their debut albums out. They should have just done a New Edition album, really, and then go back and do their follow-ups, BBD and stuff. But what happened is that, you know, that was they missed that window. They should have just done the album and then go back to do their respective stuff and kept it in that vein. It would have made it so they would have been gotten the right type of producers for their individual stuff. We would have celebrated the New Edition stuff, but
you need good management. That's why you need a good manager. And they missed the window again after the mini series. They should have went ahead and did what they had to do, but they went ahead and broke apart again. You know.
Yeah. Anyway,